Hello and welcome to Get the Table, another wrestling roundtable discussion podcast with myself, Adam Wilbourn, and one of the Dudley boys, Michael Sidgwick and Andy Murray, and we are here to discuss a burning wrestling issue. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, we have interviews, more roundtable discussions like this one, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But, Jen, you can probably guess why I've gathered you here today.
Why?
Super ShowDown happened on Friday, and it was a disaster. So I want to know how WWE must respond to this.
Well, have you seen the Stomping Grounds card? Basically, Super ShowDown was a dry run for what promises to be the driest pay-per-view in recent memory. So, in answer to your question, how WWE must respond to this, just do it again. That's literally the answer.
So they are going to follow up the driest pay-per-view in their history with the next driest pay-per-view in their history in Stomping Grounds. This show was garbage. The problem with it wasn't even, not all the matches were bad. They were fine, they were okay, they were 2.5-star house show specials, whatever. They weren't even bad. At least when they're bad, you can have a laugh. These were just boring.
There was no... I am quite numb to WWE's main roster. I do really like the pay-per-views. Apart from this one, obviously, it was trash.
Yes.
But in terms of the TV goes, the only way, in my opinion, to derive any kind of pleasure from that company's main roster right now is to just watch it through a perverse lens. And this show was just so bereft of atmosphere, so depressing, and so harrowing at times that I couldn't even do that.
It reminded me of, the episode of I'm Alan Partridge where he pierces his foot on a spike and then has to do a speech, and to only save the speech just keeps hitting pyro. That.
Yeah.
Bollocks, people are losing interest. More pyro. So, not that they're going to, but what do they have to change?
They have to turn up the air conditioning at Stomping Grounds.
Yeah. You know what they really have to do? They have to stop doing these shows, but they're obviously not going to do that because they're getting $1 billion.
Having said that, if we say that
we'll try and do it in good faith.
Yes. Yeah, having said that they are obviously aren't going to stop doing these shows. We've still got how many more? 17 more shows, if my maths are correct.
An absurd amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What else can they change? If we accept that they're not going to stop doing these shows, surely they have to stop doing these, bringing back a legend for a good old payday match.
Yeah, they have to stop doing the granddad matches. Like this Undertaker Goldberg match. The weird thing is, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, it was actually really good. I was like, okay, they're going for the Goldberg shock and all. He's hitting spears and stuff. This is really good fun. And then he hit his head on the post, and it just went down. Accidents happen.
Having already busted himself open as part of his entrance.
Yeah, on the door. These things happen, but when you're 50-odd years old, like Goldberg is, they're much more likely to happen than if you're Andrade, for example. Look at Crown Jewel, Kane's wig falling off, Shawn Michaels almost killing himself on that moonsault to the outside.
Triple H getting his pectoral muscle ripped from his
and The Undertaker versus his own hair.
And, nothing... there were botches in the Triple H Undertaker match before that, but there weren't any that put anyone's health at risk, at least. So that was at least one slight positive. But they really need to stop doing these things. I understand it's one of the few things that the crowd's actually into, but someone's gonna get hurt, man.
There was a saving grace with that main event, and it was Matt Riddle. So my question is, will Goldberg ever wrestle again after that? Because we talked about Shawn Michaels immediately following the last Saudi show, and sort of people were divided on saying, that he should definitely not go back in the ring now, or he needs to go have one more match to just sort of leave us with a nice memory akin to the one he left us with at WrestleMania all those years ago. Do you think Goldberg will be tempted to correct his legacy, or do you think that's it?
I think that might be it for him. I think he's a man who, he described his last WWE run. He was talking about the hell he was going through in training and how this was really hard, but it was worth it to see his son, let his son see him compete and all this stuff. I think Goldberg's very, very badly affected by these matches physically and mentally. He was very apologetic for how the match turned out. Now, that could go two ways. You could say, well, he'll want to prove himself again, but he strikes me as the kind of guy who'll go, nah, it was a sad note, but that's enough.
Distressing footage of him collapsing post-match as well.
Yeah, the whole idea behind the match, the mentality, and the show itself at large was just disgraceful. I really felt a deep level of sympathy to Goldberg, in contrary to Matt Riddle's incredible banter. Let's face it, because I'm conflicted.
What an e-bar, though.
Yeah, what an e-bar. It's a great e-bar. I'm conflicted because yes, he didn't have to take such a huge sum of money, being already a ludicrously rich man, but at the same time, on a purely human level, to see him collapse outside of that ring, knowing that he'd either been put in or put himself in mortal danger. I mean, it was just disgusting. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, what were they thinking, making this go 8 to 9 minutes or however long it lasted? It was just, have you not watched these shows?
Have they never
in
watched
that heat as well, let alone everything else?
On top of this, have they never watched a Goldberg match ever?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not even dramatically effective, let alone physically, like, not viable at all in terms of how dramatically effective it was. It was all sorts of wrong.
And that sounds like I'm shooting on Goldberg. I'm not. I love Goldberg. It was just really sad watching this kind of unfold.
Yeah, it's really disappointing because, like you say, he had this lovely riding off into the sunset following WrestleMania when he had this shock. The match that we all thought was just sort of a one and done against Brock at Survivor Series. Was it Survivor Series? Yes.
Yeah, Survivor Series 2016.
And then we've had this lovely moment, him winning the Universal Championship and finally, handing it back to Brock. And that was it. There's his moment. There's his moment for his family, for him, for all wrestling fans. And now he's sort of got to this level and this left a very sour taste in the mouth. Let's talk about The Undertaker as well, though, because what's going to happen next with him? Because he's liked a fan's comment saying, probably best to hang it up anytime soon.
He didn't get marched there by gunpoint, did he?
No.
He got marched there by a big stick of dollars.
What is next for him?
The worst thing about this Undertaker thing, sorry to interject, is that he had a way out to monetize his legacy outside of the WWE umbrella via StarCast and the Inside the Ropes tour. And what's happened, and I was infuriated that he liked this Instagram post, because he had the option, as far as I'm aware, to make a ludicrous sum of money on the autograph convention circuit. He took more money than WWE, depriving his ticket-buying public of seeing him and meeting him in the flesh, to take this stupid deal by WWE, and WWE has put him in another situation that has risked both his health and reputation. Yeah. I've got way less sympathy for Undertaker than I do for Goldberg at this point.
Same.
And I just think, is he going to be doing this in like 2025? Doing like WrestleMania 34-esque squash matches? That's the only thing this man is physically capable of doing at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, look at his face after the match when he sat up. Like, I think that was two things. Number one, it was anger at how poorly the match had gone. Number two, it was the Danny Glover moment. I'm getting too old for this ish.
You should have had that, 5 years
ago? Oh, God,
ago?
yeah. No, he should have had that after the Brock match, for goodness sake. Like, I don't have the same level of nostalgia for The Undertaker as a lot of people do.
It's wearing out anyone who did.
Exactly, and it's been really eroded over the past few years. It's really easy for us to sit here and say the man should not be doing this anymore, but the man should not be doing this anymore.
There's a bit of me who still holds out a little bit of hope that we can have one final match that's decent and as a passing of the torch. But
with Aleister Black,
I keep whether it be with Finn or Alistair or Bray Wyatt or whatever. Incapable. But it gets less, and every single time I see The Undertaker, the hope for that.
It should have evaporated completely.
He's
gone, man. He's absolutely cooked. And the only flip side of this is maybe I could stomach like a 3-minute match in which he doesn't have to take any bumps whatsoever, because the alternative, given that they're not exactly clamoring for like NXT guys, apart from Mansoor, obviously. So that's not like a demand getting made by the SGA. So if we don't have Undertaker matches that go 10 minutes, the dark, stark reality is that we're probably going to get Triple H matches that last 35 minutes instead. Rock's not going. Cena's not going. Goldberg's probably not going. Batista is far too much of a woke legend to tarnish his reputation with these horrific shows. There are a few names that have got that proper value that the Saudis covet, other than, at this point, Triple H, who wrestled for 25 minutes on this show. So he could go 35 if they need that quota filled, and that is just a really, really bad prospect.
What I found interesting about this is, it's no great surprise. We've seen this over the last couple of shows they've done there. Is not only the fan backlash, because there's however, depending on how you feel about it, some people can put it to one side and just enjoy the show for what it is. Some people really struggle, understandably, with the situation surrounding it. But also, it's the wrestler backlash now. The wrestlers who would not only, a lot of them don't want to go or aren't allowed to go or whatever. and we all know about the backstage morale at the moment, but they were just all pissed off about how crap the show was, weren't they?
Yeah, a big report came out from Shiggity Shagger Dave after the event, talking about how one person he'd spoken to had said, "Yeah, I had a good time." The rest were all, "No, this was absolute trash." It's just that they're sounds like they're creating a really toxic backstage mentality these days. Whether or not it's been that way for years, we can talk about forever. But like things like adding 6 months onto poor Luke Harper's contract, this show. What's going on in that company? It doesn't sound like a fun place to work.
And it's a weird situation to be in as well, because certain people, who everyone knows who it is, who don't want to go, are championship material but can't hold the championships for more than 5 months, because on the 6th month we go to Saudi and they aren't going to go.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like having a complaint about how they're sort of interfering with the creative system. And again, I don't want to conflate that with the real horrible worldwide, the world implications behind it. But yeah, I mean, no one wants to go. No one elsewhere beyond Saudi Arabia really wants to watch these shows at face value. Gauging by that atmosphere, no one in that stadium wants to watch it at all. Like, even the legends, someone like Undertaker, who everything I know about his personal life and all the rest of it, not that he discloses much, everything I know about it means he's not going to give a toss about the source of these funds whatsoever. Even he was like, nah, man, this is rubbish. Everything about this is an affront to what WWE used to kind of be.
Andy said to me before we came in here, it felt very much like a very, very expensive glorified house show. What else do they need to change in and around these Saudi shows? Because there's no getting away from them.
I mean, they could just say no. I mean, if that was an option, which apparently it was on the eve of Crown Jewel, then, I don't know about the contractual situation. If they must proceed with these shows, then there is literally physically no way someone like Undertaker can wrestle in those kind of attractions anymore. That's a physical impossibility at this point.
The conundrum we have with these events is that generally, the purpose of wrestling should be to elicit a response from the live crowd. And the thing is, we can sit here and go, well, they should put better matches on. Kofi and Dolph should have had a better match. But the crowd there, they don't give a damn about that. They from the evidence of this card, the only things they really reacted to were, number one, Mansoor, the home country boy, and the end of Orton and Triple H when it got dramatic and they saw all the cool moves from these two legends, and that's the conundrum they have.
I've got an idea, and it's very easy. What they could do is just build new stars.
Whoa!
So they can develop their name value to a point where it infiltrates Saudi Arabia, and then that public can respond to these new stars in kind as if they are real stars like Triple H and Randy Orton. So that's one idea they could do.
That's radical.
You're more likely to see them turn down Saudi money. I genuinely think
it's just absolutely... The whole point of these shows, and what I'm getting at with this very deep cynicism, is that they are on so many different levels. The only word I can use to describe them is untenable.
Is there any point in having championship matches on these shows? Because we've seen over the last 3 now, kind of pointless. There's no point putting any weight behind it, because I don't think any of us, aside from maybe a Brock cash-in, thought a title was going to change hands.
There's no drama. There's no drama to them whatsoever. There's no point. I guess, again, it's a thing for the crowd. They get to see the belt. They get to see the champion. It's like a prestige thing, I guess.
It is, like you say, it is like if they put a show on in Newcastle and said the Universal Championship's going to be on the line. No one's thinking it's changing hands. This isn't Madison Square Garden.
But again, it's all untenable, because if you look at the marketing behind that very show, it is the equivalent to, or perhaps exceeds, WrestleMania. The SGA want a show that, at the very least, in the most tragically optimistic manner imaginable, sort of makes it look like it's a big, big, grand show. So it needs championship matches, and whether they've got a really Sami Zayn or Daniel Bryan or Kevin Owens or Aleister Black as champion, they'll be stripped of it weeks ahead of the show because they need a title match more than they need those performers. They can't have the legends who appear at WrestleMania because they are physically being ground to dust as we speak. Untenable. I can't answer this question because everything about these shows is untenable.
Finally, what do you think is going to happen tonight on Monday Night Raw as a sort of follow-up to this show?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. I think they'll no-sell 90% of what happened on it and just continue as was.
Do you think they'll just continue this? They'll obviously reference the Rollins, Lesnar, Corbin stuff, but in terms of the issues that people have had with the matches, the fact they put 51 people in the Battle Royal, obviously the Taker
Daft Days
Goldberg match. Do you think they'll just gloss over it and just do a nice highlight package like they always do?
Looking at the upcoming Stomping Grounds card, it looks like they're just going to try and rebuild the heat of these programs. Like Seth Barron's happening again, Kofi Doll's happening again. It looks like they're going to do this show again with women involved this time and just try and make it a little bit less disastrous.
Yeah, bit
like
less crap.
Anyone hoping for a hard reset button is going to be SHIT out of luck.
Totally agree.
The one saving grace I suppose we can take from all this is arguably the
furthest...
Mansoor's
going to get a big push now.
It's arguably the furthest time we have until the next Saudi show. So just enjoy it whilst you still can, boys.
To be fair, man, Crown Jewel wasn't technically a good wrestling show, but I at least had a laugh with it. Like Shane McMahon winning Best in the World and all this other stupid nonsense. This show had none of that. It was just boring.
Grim, man. It was grim.
The main event was perversely entertaining in a way, but also quite sickening. So,
not been great. Anyway, Monday Night Raw tonight. Let us know your thoughts on this, on all of the topics we've discussed in the comments section below, or on Twitter. You can tweet them to us at WhatCulture WWE. Whilst you're there, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy It's Over.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. You can follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. And make sure you check out some more of our recent videos on the YouTube channel. My thanks to Michael and to Andy. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.